potential for jobs. President Melvin Johnson, the president of TSU, has mentioned at other research parks how many graduates of those institutions that are connected to these research projects almost are promised jobs once they get out of college. There are jobs all over the community. There are offshoot developments. There are opportunities for small business owners. And so from that respect, the alumni, some degree in favor, but then you also have a group of alumni who have witnessed the history of these partnerships. A lot of them have a lot of the older alumni have a negative opinion about the relationship between TSU and the stadium in that deal and how that occurred. There's a lot of animosity there. There's a fear that this is going to be another one of those stadium deals. And so when we start to look at our stakeholder groups, we want to see, well, how do we being HBCU, how do we bring these groups together to come to some meeting of the mind so that we can have some form of development that might not make everybody happy, but it will at least make everybody satisfied.
And it would help North Nashville, especially in that area. Is that what we're saying?
Oh, definitely. But what's interesting is we've started to look at stakeholder groups from a geographic perspective. Of course, I'm a geographer. And one of the maps, I don't know if you can see this, this is a map of the vote that was taken by the Planning Commission. And so there were 3 African Americans on the Planning Commission. And what that map shows is that the 2 African American planning commissioners who do not live in the black community, they voted against it. The 1 African American planning commissioner who lives in the black community voted for it. What's also interesting is the white planning commissioners who live in predominantly white communities voted for it, but the white planning commissioners who live in closer proximity to Maytown voted against it. So it's really almost an opposite effect geographically based upon race. And so just looking at the African American commissioners, it could be that they're not living in the African American community, that they're living away from Maytown. They felt probably less of a
stake
allegiance, less of a stake,
and
hey, I can vote against it. It's no big deal. It's not affecting my community. That's just whereas what's interesting is now the white commissioners who voted against it are those that live closest to the Bells Bend area. But it's unbelievable how racially segregated it is. Their districts are overwhelmingly predominantly white, and of course the white communities were the main stakeholders who were coming out overwhelmingly against the project, obviously because they have no stake in Tennessee State University. And so by looking at the stakeholder reaction geographically, we can see perhaps ways to affect change in different ways. Perhaps we should have looked at those planning commissioners and said, hey, this commissioner A and B, they're black, but we can't assume that they're going to be in favor of this thing. Maybe we need to reach out to these individuals and say, hey, look, this is important. I know your constituents probably don't care one way or another. They're way out in Antioch or they're way up north in Madison. And that would have turned the tide in this case. But obviously that didn't happen. And so so that's one thing that we're really interested in.
Okay, and so Dr. Padgett, we're in this show for today, but you really do believe that it is possible to get this project up and running with a little more publicity and a little more interest in some of the people that ought to be interested in it. You think that you can get it going again?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a meeting of the minds. The opposition seems to be primarily against the corporate portion, which really is a threat to the TSU Research Park. But the Sustainable Agriculture Research Center should be fine, and maybe with some mix of residential development and maybe some commercial, it'll still fly.
And of course, Dr. Padgett, let me thank you for bringing that excellent information by to us today, and I'm sure that we gained a lot of information in reference to it. I thought it was a dead project myself, but I'm glad that I know this. And of course, let me encourage our audience to tune in again next week for another informative edition of Comments. Thank you and good morning.